And so without further ado, let me bring up my sister, my family. Words cannot describe how powerful and how highly I regard this sister. She is truly a warrior. I don't know if that's true from all people who come from the Bay or from Oakland, but there's something they do in the water there where everybody come down. It's just hardcore. Please give a round of applause to my dear sister and VP candidate, Melina Abdullah.
Everybody. So I am so grateful to be here, and I know that we're going to have dialogue, we're going to have conversation. I was asked to just introduce Dr. West, but before I do that, because you know this year I'm not good at following directions. So I'm going to just insert something really, really quickly, which is thank you. Thank you. You were one of the first people I called when I was invited to be Dr. West's running mate. And Hasira will sometimes, H-Soul Watson, will sometimes, H-Soul Watson, that's how the kids say it, right? Will sometimes talk in terms of brother and sister, but I want to be very clear when we say family, we mean family. So, you know, there's that theoretical love, like we love everybody, right? We love everybody, but I love this family differently. This is my family. This is my family that is bonded by spirit in so many ways. And you know, if I talk too long, I'll start crying. It is a good thing, especially in this time in the world, and I see everybody's kafiyah, grateful for your kafiyahs and grateful for your fight in this time where they're trying to steal our humanity. Tears are a blessing. So if I talk too long, I'll cry about who Ma'aja is and about who my baby Sari is and who Danielle is and Mama Ja is and who Hasira is, and I won't say much more than I'll say our bond is all the way back to birth because we're both September 18th babies. And in some of the toughest times in our lives, we saved each other's lives. And so this is not a theoretical love, this is a real love. And this is fitting as we have 16 days left on one of the most awesome journeys that I have ever been on. And so I'm grateful to all of you. There are love warriors in the house. There are members of my ummah, my community, my Muslim community in the house. There are Black Lives Matter organizers in the house. There is just such a spirit that Dr. West and I both remarked on as we walked into this space. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for sowing seeds in this space. And I just want to pray that the correct words, that the right words, that the righteous words flow through me and through us and resonate throughout this space, because we're also sowing seeds at a time when someone else, when other people have ill intentions for this world. We are saying that truth, justice, and love will win. Truth, justice, and love will win. So let what we plant here today take root so that we can grow the kind of world that we all want, need, and deserve. So, Dr. West, I was introduced to Dr. West when I think I was 19 when you came to Howard. I was an undergraduate student at Howard University. I was a student organizer, and we were doing a program on campus. And I read Race Matters. How many of you had your lives changed by Race Matters? Right? I read Race Matters, and I'm sitting here doing this student program, right? And we the militant, it was called CUSA, Howard University Student Association, right? And we're the militant CUSA. And I look out into the audience, and sitting at one of the round tables is Dr. Cornel West. Not invited to speak, didn't know he was going to be there, but just there to encourage us. And that was my first interaction ever with him. And then I would be introduced to him in different spaces in Los Angeles. We share a very, very close friend in Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas. And after that, I got to know Dr. West not just as, I call him the smartest man on the planet, right? The smartest man on the planet. We need brilliance. This world needs brilliance, but more than that, we need what really resonates, I think, for me and for all of us. I watched the way you greeted him as we had this receiving line. We need humility, integrity, and love. And what sets Dr. West apart is his character. It's not just his brilliance, because there's such a thing as evil genius. But what we need is brilliant love. And so I've been really, really blessed to be in space with Dr. West as he helped us fight not just for the maintenance, but the expansion of Black studies and ethnic studies. As he marched in Ferguson, as he allowed the young people to come to the stage in Ferguson, October, one of them being my 10-year-old or then 10-year-old child, who said, "No, Dr. West, you had your time, sit down. It's the young people's turn," right? And I'm sitting here going, Tunde Way, you don't know how to speak in front of a group of, it was like a packed auditorium. But he did, and he encouraged all of that. And I was content when Dr. West announced that he was running for president. I was elated because for me, it was hope for the world. It was a different vision for the world. It was something that we could get behind, not just someone we would vote for because we had to vote the lesser of two evils, right? And so I was content to be an enthusiastic supporter of the West presidential race. And so I also host a radio program. We have several radio hosts in the audience. I had a radio program, and I felt very fortunate that Dr. West joined me on one of the broadcasts. And I had been invited to introduce him at different fundraisers. My kids sat alongside him for intergenerational discussions. And I was really, really excited and honored to be a part of that. And Dr. West and his wife, Anahita, called me a couple days after that interview. And I thought they were calling a debrief. And Dr. West kind of paused in the conversation, and by now I'd been around him for a while. And I don't know how many of you have noticed, but Dr. West doesn't pause in conversation very often. And Anahita goes, "Well, just ask her." And I said, "Ask me what?" And they said, "Well, will you be my running mate?" And my heart jumped out my chest, and I wanted to immediately say yes. One of the things Mama Ja taught me, though, is we got to sometimes slow walk it, right? That's your turn, right? We got to slow walk it. Okay, don't let, what do you say? Emotions make wonderful followers, but terrible leaders, right? So my emotion said yes, but then I listened to your teachings, right? And I said, well, I want to say yes, but let me first ask in community. So I asked my children. I still have to ask my mother for permission, right? And I asked my organizing community, and that took about a week. And everybody was as enthusiastic as I was. And we said yes. And so for the my journey has been 7 months. Your journey has been 17 months. We have been sowing seeds. We have been building this brilliant, loving, beautiful moment in a movement where we say, in Colorado especially, where our names appear on the ballot. Where our names appear on the ballot. get to vote our vision, not our fear. We get to vote our vision, not our fear. We're in a church. We know that faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. So we get to move forward as faithful people and say, we will not accept a world that spends hundreds of billions of dollars on genocide as our folks live unhoused. We will not spend on bailing out banks when it's the people that need the bailout. And so in this moment, how fortunate I am, how fortunate we are to have visionary leadership, have one that we can vote for, have one that we can walk alongside, have one who dares to say, our platform is truth, justice, and love, and we gonna sing all the way to the victory. We get to vote for Dr. Cornel West for president. Dr. Cornel West.
You see how blessed I am to run alongside this love warrior, freedom fighter, wounded healer, and joy spreader. That's my dear sister, Dr. Melina Abdullah. In fact, Anahita and I, when we prayed and pondered, I said, there's one question. I've got to find somebody who will put a smile on the face of Fannie Lou Hamer. Oh, that's a high standard. That's a major criteria. But we found her, and it has been magnificent in these 7 months. Give it up again for my dear sister, running here. My dear sister, I'm just going to say a few words. We're going to jump into this dialogue, but I want to begin by recognizing where we are. We are in consecrated space, y'all. Consecrated space. This is short of AME. This is historic. It's a monumental institution. So when I look and see my dear brother, Reverend Dr. Timothy Eugene Tyler and Twanita, the First Lady, I want to get a good look at them. We salute you. Give it up for these two. These are the caretakers of this grand institution. But we all are who we are because somebody loved us. Somebody cared for us. Somebody sacrificed for us. Somebody was of service to us. And I'm a product of the black church, the black freedom struggle in Irene and Clifton West and Shiloh Baptist Church and Reverend Willie P. Cook and Deacon Hinton and Sarah Ray, my vacation Bible school teacher. That's where I come from. And I'm just a small little wave in an ocean. Somebody mentioned Vincent Harding here. There he was, the great Vincent Harding. Nobody like him. Close to King, wrote Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, Breaking the Silence in Riverside. He wrote a book called There Is a River. And I'm blessed to be just a little small wave in that river. And the way in which Brother H. Soul and his blessed mother wave in an ocean. Where's Cassandra? Wave. Where is she? Just wave. Wave in an ocean. And where's my dear brother Mike, who has been one of the grand figures and legal theorists in mine? Just stand up, brother Mike. Stand up, brother. Love this brother and your wife too. Both of y'all stand up. Both of y'all stand up. Wave in an ocean. And this campaign is just a matter of trying to bring the waves together. Bring the waves together. So in the face of all the chronic hatred, here comes the love. Not just love in the mamby-pamby sense, but the love that is cruciform, which means you're willing to live for it and even willing to die for it. And the freedom that begins for me on the chocolate side of town because my mama and daddy and grandparents were chocolate. So when I come to Denver, I'm looking for the spirit of Diane Reeves and Philip Bailey because they chocolate and they enrich my life. But my love spills over to vanilla, brothers and sisters. Spills over to everybody, Arabs, Muslims, Jews, Palestinians, Nigerians, Guatemalans, Costa Ricans. And that ain't no joke. That come from a black people who at our best have been the leaven in the American loaf. And it has much to do with institutions like Shorter AME Church and Shiloh Baptist Church, Pentecostal churches, AME Zion's producing John Coltrane's, Calvary Baptist is producing Count Basie's, and Sarah Vaughn's out of Mount Zion, and Bethany Baptist producing a Mary Baraka. I can go on and on and on. Where's Brother Malcolm Newton? Is he still here? Stand up, brother, stand up. Named after Malcolm X and Huey Newton. At the same time, we go back 25 years. This brother's in classical music with Kathleen Battle and Jesse Norman. It's international, it's global, it includes reggae too. The important thing is we have to have our hearts and minds and souls intact before we get involved in politics. Because if you jump into politics and your soul's not intact, there's a good chance you're going to sell out and cave in and give up and become so well-adjusted to injustice and well-adapted to indifference that you no longer would want to focus on the least of these poor brothers and sisters, working brothers and sisters, on and on and on. We're going to get into all that. So I'm just blessed to be here. Very blessed to be here. And I look forward to being challenged and unsettled. I don't view myself in any way as a piper. The anthem of black people is lift every voice. It's not lift every echo. You can't be a blues woman or a jazz man if you're just going to be an imitation and a copy of somebody else. If you just an echo, you better find your voice, and your voice is just like your fingerprint. Only you can do what needs to be done given the kind of gifts that you have, and whether you have the courage to cultivate the capacity to give those gifts to others. And in the end, your humanity in so many ways will be defined by the degree to which you mustered the courage to love, to hope, to serve, to help others, and then try to pass it on to the younger generation, but always trying to do it with style, trying to do it with soul, and soul ain't nothing but the sharing of a soothing sweetness against the backdrop of a grim catastrophe. And with a deep, deep sense of humility, as we noted before, because we all cracked vessels. Just trying to love our crooked neighbor with our crooked hearts, and to serve our neighbor and be a neighbor. That's where the critiques of empire come in, the critiques of imperialism, critiques of predatory capitalism, critiques of male supremacy, critiques of losing sight of the humanity of anybody, and yet straightening your back up and being willing to fight, to throw down, and have a whole lot of fun and keep the funk in it as you proceed.
Check, check, check. All right, so we're going to get into the conversation. We're also going to have a couple of mics. I only have 2 or 3 questions, and then we're going to pass the microphone, because again, the purpose of this was to have a dialogue and to encourage conversation to take place amongst our community, right? So I really wanted just to start it off. The first question to both of you, actually, would love to hear you both take a stab at this question. One of the things that you hear in social media, you hear this being pushed out in the community, is that third parties are essentially a vote for who you don't want in office, and so in that way, third parties, and as a third party candidate, you're serving as a distraction we don't want an office and whoever that matters. So I just want to give you an opportunity to address that accusation and that critique of third party politics and third parties in and of themselves.
Sure. We're living in a moment of such profound spiritual decay and moral decadence that American politics has become, in its dominant form, legalized bribery, normalized corruption, politicized larceny. Both parties are corporate dominated. Raised $450 million, $470 million in 1 month. Now, our campaign may be as broke as the Ten Commandments financially. Low on cash, but a whole lot of gas. Trying to pour water on our parade, but never dampen the fire of our souls for truth and justice and love. So the first thing we have to do is tell the truth about the very system and two-party arrangement that makes it difficult for truth to emerge. And what is truth? Truth, in part, is a condition of truth, is to allow suffering to speak. So do we see in our political discourse any concern about the 1 out of 5 children who live in poverty, the 2 out of 5 black children who live in poverty? Any talk about the mass incarceration regime, which I still view as a crime against humanity? Any talk about the grotesque wealth inequality where 3 individuals have wealth equivalent to half the population? 160 million fellow citizens have wealth equivalent to 3 people. That's a key sweat moment. Something just ain't right. That's spiritually sick. Where's the discussion on genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing in Gaza and West Bank? Both parties claim to have such differences, and there are some, but the deeper ones, the ones that those who look at the world through moral and spiritual lens, not just through narrow electoral lens. So the two-party system itself becomes a matter of national security. As long as there's a stranglehold on what is available in our discussion and who we can vote for, and both parties themselves can't say a mumbling word about poverty, mass incarceration, decrepit school systems, unaffordable housing, wages still far behind that of profits of those at the top. Sooner or later, you're going to have a full-throated fascism. Is Trump a gangster and a fascist? Of course he is. And grass is green, and the sky is blue. But if you want an anti-fascist response to fascism, you can't generate your own lies and your own crimes. That's the challenge, you see. And that's exactly what we've tried to do. It reminds me in some ways of the 1850s when we had to choose between a liberal slaveholder and a conservative slaveholder. What you gonna do, Frederick Douglass? What you gonna do, Harriet Tubman? What you gonna do, Sojourner Truth? We create a third party called the Liberty Party that generates another third party called the Republican Party with a vanilla brother named Abraham Lincoln. He got white supremacist sensibilities, but he's open to the challenge of an abolitionist movement. And that abolitionist movement was fundamentally rooted in the hearts and minds of enslaved Africans in alliance with some vanilla brothers and sisters. To do what? To have a critique of a system that was incapable of speaking to the fundamental issues of those Sly Stone called everyday people. Those James Cleveland called ordinary people.
I should have gone first. No. tangibly to your question. First, people should have to earn our vote. They should have to earn our vote. The Republicans are not entitled to our vote, but neither are the Democrats. They're not entitled to our vote because they pushed aside Genocide Joe to give us a smiling version of genocide. I don't care if she has a good silk press and a funny laugh, right? She has to earn our vote. We don't owe it to them. The lesser of two evils is still evil. And so I'm choosing to vote for what I actually believe in. I'm choosing to vote for no genocide. I'm choosing to vote for a free Palestine. I'm choosing to vote for reparations, a debt that's owed to Black people. I'm choosing to vote for free quality education, pre-K through PhD. I'm choosing to vote for not just healthcare for all, but healthcare justice that recognizes things like medical apartheid and Black mother mortality rates, right? I'm choosing to vote for disability justice. I'm choosing to vote for a gender justice that says, yes, publish the ERA, and period justice is a part of gender justice, right? I'm choosing to vote for the things that I believe in. We don't have to vote just Democrat or Republican. As Dr. West is pointing out, that is not democracy when they give you the illusion of choice, right? The South African presidential election, this is supposed to be a brand new democracy in South Africa. They had 10 viable candidates on their ballot. And we're saying we only have 2 choices? No. I am choosing to choose. So if they lose, if the Democrats lose, they lost, right? They lost, right? The other thing that we need to think about is who it is we're mobilizing. We are expanding democracy right now. Sorry, I'm looking at you, freshly minted 18-year-old. I would bet my left pinky that you would not have voted Democrat or Republican. You're confirming. I get to keep my pinky. Yes. So we have to remember that expanding democracy means, sorry, Ma'aja, Ainku, wherever you are, right? My children, we're offering you someone to vote for. These ones, these young ones who are the most courageous and visionary among us, who said, free Palestine, I don't care if you kick me out of your Ivy League college. I don't care if you put me on a list that says I can't get into law school or can't get a job. I'm gonna stand for what I believe in. These young ones are not gonna come to the polls to vote for a lesser of two evils choice. We are expanding democracy. We're giving you someone to vote for. The last thing is that is confirmed by this data that's coming out of UCLA, that what we're actually doing is mobilizing new voters. And isn't that a good thing? Mobilizing new voters is a good thing. And what the two-party system, what the corporate-owned duopoly is most afraid of, these newly mobilized voters, these young people, these Black men who they're saying, you know, Kamala Harris only has 80% support among Black men, right? They're not going along to get along and saying, I'm just voting Democrat, right? What they're doing is saying, you gotta earn my vote, right? And so what we're recognizing is there is a politics that goes to that. And they are recognizing that you have to both vote and organize. So the corporate duopoly is scared because you're coming to the polls on November 5th to vote for someone, but they're more afraid of what you will do on November 6th.
That's real. If I just add a footnote, we got to keep in mind that almost 40% of those who could vote decide not to vote at all.
That's right.
2 out of 5 staying home, laying on the couch. Probably listen to a little Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, you know. I know that the corruption is out of control. I've completely pulled back. Those are the ones that we have been touching.
That's right.
Most of the people who say they're voting for us, they're not going to vote Democrat or Republican.
That's right.
They pulled back
That's right.
because they know that business as usual is one in which the politicians have been colonized, dominated by big money, their donors, their benefactors. They know their corporate media is running the horse race-like coverage without speaking to any of the deeper issues. And we're trying to make sure that we give them sense of vision and hope and become part and parcel of what we're doing. But at the same time, we should also say that, you see, we don't demonize people who disagree with us. You see, people come up to us and say, oh, we love you, but we got to vote for Sister Harris because she's a black sister and we want to see a black sister in the White House. And we say, that's highly unpersuasive argument, because we've seen a whole lot of black faces in high places that don't stand up for poor and working people, that won't stand against Gaza, genocide. But that doesn't mean we hate you. Go on and be an echo. We want you to be a voice. And we give you the right to be wrong. We still connected with you. We still might even end up working with you months from now, because when the police get to your house and your child, we gonna be fighting for you. Because this is not simply about just an election. And that's one of the reasons why short of A&E. Is it 1868, brother? 1860? 1863. You see, one of the reasons why this institution is still going is because you had leaders to say to black people, I'm not loving black people in order for black people to love us back. I'm loving black people because they're worthy of being loved. And when you love folk, you respect them, you protect them, and you correct them. And you can keep loving them when you disagree. And that's true for anybody, any color, any gender, any sexual orientation, any nation. But still, you take your stand. And that's what we're doing. And we do it in a self-critical way. We're not self-righteous. We learn it from other people. Very much so. Very much so. But it's just hard to get this message out because the decadence is so pervasive in the culture for truth and justice to love that get any foothold is a challenge. Because the lies are so thick and too many other leaders are conformists and cowardly. And we have to be honest about that. I say that in love. And too much of the culture is thoroughly gangsterized. Trump is just the sign and symptom of a gangsterized culture. He happens to be the highly manifest gangster that's a mirror to the worst of the culture. But I also recognize that I got some gangster in me. Oh yes, I got me some gangster in me. I was a gangster before I met Jesus. Now I'm a redeemed sinner with gangster proclivities. Y'all better pray for me. Nothing but the Holy Ghost holding me together. But it means all the things that we talk about is something we have to come to terms with inside of us, inside of our own communities. And the best of who we are, the best of our communities, the best of our traditions must be uplifted. That's why short of AME is still going from 1863 to 2024. Very important.
All right, so I have 4 questions. I'm done with my questions. I want those of you who have an opportunity or who want to take an opportunity. I got 2 mics. Matt, you want to put the mics, circulate them out in the crowd? Dr. Newton? Is that because you got a microphone back there, or you want a microphone back there?
I'm coming, brother.
I think that's Brother Malcolm Newton's question about the,
You just speak to that project 2025, what black folks need to know, what they need to do.
Well, I think that when we talked about faith and fear, Project 2025 is not a new document. We have to remember that it's something that the radical right has been working on for almost 40 years. So when it's trotted out now as something new, we have to remember why. And it doesn't mean that we don't prepare ourselves. It doesn't mean that we don't have plans of our own, but when we're only responding to someone else's plan, that's called being reactionary. And so we have to remember that we have to build plans of our own. That's what our policy pillars are as this campaign. What are our policy pillars? What is it we're moving towards? If we're only playing defense and never offense, we lose. And so we intend to move forward a vision for this world. And that's what we, again, lay out in our policy pillars. I don't mean close your eyes to Project 2025. I don't mean you close your eyes to what Trump, what was it, yesterday, day before yesterday, was talking about he's shutting down the Department of Education, right? You know, those are things we have to be aware of. And what is our educational justice plan, right? So don't just be reactionary, don't just resign ourselves to the fear that they're trying to get us to respond to. Let's be faithful and visionary and do the work that's necessary to move that forward.
Absolutely. As I recall, in the 1920s, Shorter AME was burned down by the Ku Klux Klan. Is that right, my brother? 1920s. So what black folk gonna do? Keep fighting, keep loving, keep laughing, keep organizing, keep keeping on. You're not gonna be a parasite on somebody else's host by only looking at the world through their lens and you therefore always just reacting. No, you respond in light of the depths of the love and justice of your own tradition that has been poured into your heart, mind, and soul every generation. So I can imagine what the sermon was the next Sunday when they don't even have a church and the Ku Klux Klan walking around so full of pride. The sermon probably was, we come from a people who've been on intimate terms of catastrophe for centuries. This ain't new. Project 25 ain't new. We just never gonna allow that catastrophe to have the last word, and we're gonna dig deep into the dark wells of our own tradition and straighten ourselves up and create a new Shorter AME version built on what was established in 1863. And I keep coming back to the church as a kind of microcosm. I could talk about black Jews in the synagogue. I could talk about black Muslims in the mosque. I could talk about black folk in the temple in terms of human responses to catastrophe. Or I could talk about the blues. And the blues ain't nothing but catastrophe lyrically expressed and honestly confronted and artistically transformed. But B.B. King, nobody loves me but my mama, and she might be jiving too. That's catastrophe. But his response is what? So much style and smile, a little help from Lucille, his guitar, and all of the voices of the past, the Robert Johnsons, the Bessie Smiths, the Ma Rainey's, all of those voices in his voice, and then pass it on. To Chicago ain't nothing but Mississippi North, and he from Mississippi. You know, Mississippi is the ground zero of our struggle for black people. But I won't get into that right now. But the blues comes right out of downtown Mississippi. That's where the targeting was, the most vicious attacks of black people who are majority state. South Carolina is the only state that comes close. We'll be there next week. Started in Mississippi. We started a campaign. Fannie Lou Hamer Ground, Lexington, Mississippi. That's where we started. With the blues-inflicted gospel of blood at the foot of a cross and seeing how we're going to find a way out of no way and step out on nothing and land on something. So 2025, Brother Malcolm, same project, same attempt to push us back, and we keep swinging and fighting and moving forward.
Brother, we have 4 hands so far. So we have this sister right here who's gonna be first. This sister right here is second. This sister right here is third. And that brother right there is fourth. That's the only hands I have so far. I see others coming, but I won't remember you. So right after we get to this sister going, raise your hands and we'll start coming back.
We appreciate you setting up that line like that, brother.
Dr. West, a unity party here with Jesse Paris. When they nominated you for president, it's probably one of the happiest days of my life because I really pushed for you to come here. As a third party, you know, you're the people's choice. That's really what the third party means, is the people's choice. And we were so elated to bring a third option to Colorado because it's been, the climate, political climate here is beyond repair sometimes. And so I just wanted to tell you that first off. But I have 2 questions. One, the speech you gave at the ADOS conference, I was wondering if you could tell the people here about joy and how you described it at the ADOS conference, sir, because that was a very uplifting speech, and I shared it on my broadcast with I have 3 platforms, so I shared it on our broadcast because I feel like that's the true meaning, not this gloriated situation that they want to talk about. And the other thing is, can you also tell us about your plans for reparations, your tangible plans for reparations? I have thoroughly read the websites, I'm well versed, but can you tell the people here so that they can have an understanding of what a third party option can bring to the state of Colorado? Because it is powerful, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear sister. I think you already answered that second one quite eloquently in terms of the crucial role of other voices. Absolutely. And we salute the Unity Party. I was blessed to be there at their convention. I had a magnificent time. Each and every one of them are just wonderful folk embracing us in a powerful manner. In your first question, it had to do with, with the joy. Yeah, we just lost one of the great giants, Frankie Beverly. That sang about joy and what? Like sunshine and You see, when you deodorize and sanitize and sterilize joy, you get cheap joviality. And cheap joviality is just titillating and stimulating, but it can't sustain you. There is no joy without deep sorrow. Dostoevsky says there's no joy without grief. And you remember, nobody knows the trouble I've seen, nobody knows but Jesus, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. What's that last line? Glory, hallelujah. Where does that last line come from? It's not logical or rational. You just talked about the trouble. You just talked about calamity and monstrosity. Where's the glory? It's the joy. Because joy is the fruit of love. And love breaks the back of fear. And love is the only thing that equips us to allow us to put on the whole armor in that 6th chapter of Ephesians. Put on that whole armor against any fear, any enmity, any enemy. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers in dark places and spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what joy is. And if you're not willing to deal with grief and pain and hurt and unbelievable sorrow, you'll never know what joy is. Go on and take your cheap joviality and act like somehow you're so happy. And in fact, it's nothing but a joyless quest for pleasure, which is empty and fatuous. And we come from a joyful people. It takes a whole lot of bruises and wounds and scars to really understand what joy is. You see the point I'm trying to make? It's very important. Because when I hear the Democratic Party talking about they the party of joy, I said, get off the crack pipe, please. Take your cheap joviality somewhere else. Joy is in the funk, it ain't in the deodorized zone. Keep it real, keep it raw. That's where the joy comes from. That's where black voices come from. David Ruffin and Isaac Hayes and Eddie Kendricks, Philip Bailey and Diane Reeves. That's deep, deep sorrow transfigured into a joyful sound mediated with a master of craft and technique. That's the history of a black musical tradition. Spreading the joy. What did they say about Louis Armstrong? The saddest man they ever met. That's what Ozzie Davis told me. But what was it about Louis Armstrong? Was he full of joy? Oh my God. And where did all that joy come from? Wrestling with his sadness at the deepest level. And that's true for the choirs in this church. Is that right, my brother? Y'all singing the choir? Real choirs. I ain't talking about those cheap praise teams. I'm talking about those choirs that sing from their hearts and minds and souls, wrestling with the sadness and the sorrow. And lo and behold, they look at that cross and they see joy working through that unbelievable catastrophe. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about deep joy.
All right, number 2.
With all due respect, I hear what you all are talking about. One of the things that you said, Dr. Abdullah, is you talked about faith and fear. And the thing that I understand about the Western society that we live in is we're all either victims or a part of this colonized way of thinking and being. And what I want to know is, y'all talked about democracy, but let's talk about what democracy really is. Because truth be told, we never, in the United States, in Western society, we never had a true democracy. So I'd like to hear about those things, as opposed to faith and fear. You know, faith is a big part of what we do, but faith without works is dead and doesn't mean anything. So what is democracy to you all? What does that look like, and how would that translate out to the people? Because just like you said, the Republicans and the Democrats have to earn our vote, you all do also.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So that's a huge question, and we do intend to earn your vote. That's the work that we're doing, is earning your vote, doing what we can. Now we don't have a platform like the Democratic Party and Republican Party. We got to be clear that the same corporate interests that have bought those parties have also bought mass media. So we don't get invited on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all of these other corporate-owned media outlets. We have to come and talk to the people in a way, I was talking to Brother Eric on the plane coming out here, in a way that's a blessing, because we get to talk with you and ask you what you think and what you believe. When we built our policy pillars, which is how we're saying this is how we want to earn your vote, right? When we built our policy pillars, it wasn't just Dr. West coming up with these ideas and me pitching in. It was us talking with Sister Manju about what should gender justice include, and it has to include from a young person's point of view. And she said it has to. She's a founder of Operation Period. It has to include period justice, because this is what is mattering to young people, right? To young women, right? It has to include, when we talk about gender justice, expansive understandings of what gender is. It's not just male and female. It's also, you know, my oldest child is gender nonconforming, right? Gender justice means recognizing that, right? And so what it is we're building, when we say we want to earn your vote, you're right. It's not just the Democrats and Republicans that have to earn your vote. Anybody who's asking for your vote has to earn it. Now, you may say, that's not for me. And if we lose your vote, we lost it. We're not going to blame it on anybody else. We lost it, right? But we're being truthful about what we stand for. We're not just giving you something that you want to hear. We are both very faithful, and I know you don't want me to talk necessarily about faith, but it is the thread that interweaves everything for me and for us, right? That we're faithful, and we regularly seek guidance about what it is we should be doing, right? And so what is generated comes from that faith, comes from that understanding, but also comes from grounding with our people. So that's really, really important. You're absolutely right. This country has never been based on democracy. They give you the illusion of democracy by giving you two false choices. Democracy, and I'm speaking as one who studied political science. I'm gonna stop saying I'm a political scientist, because I also don't believe in that discipline, right? But one who studied political science. Democracy is supposed to be ruled by the people. That's what we are bringing. We intend to sow the seeds of a revolution that says that we can govern ourselves, that the people should govern ourselves. The people should determine what kind of world that we want, and it should also be the people that engage in building that world. And so that's been what we've been trying to build through this campaign, also through the movement that we've been a part of for decades. On both parts, we've been a part of movement for decades. And that's what we're trying to build, is a democratic society, a democratic world where the people really are what moves us forward, grounded in faith, grounded in an understanding of each other, and grounded in a hope for humanity in our future.
Absolutely. Just very quickly, I loved your question and the spirit behind it. But when Martin Luther King Jr. said that militarism, poverty, and forms of racism and materialism they are crushing any possibilities for a true democracy. That sits at the center of our campaign. When you spend 62 cents for every $1 for military operations around the world, over 800 military units around the world, 130 special operations in 100 countries around the world. That's the United States and its empire. We talked about the poverty. We're abolitionists when it comes to poverty. We're abolitionists when it comes to unhousedness or homelessness. There should never be one poor person in the richest nation in the history of the world in the United States. But that's just the legacy of Martin King and Fannie Lou Hamm and others. Materialism the same way. When we hear our dear sister Harris say, the greatest story that's ever been told is the American story, I said, please, get off the crack pipe. Let me tell you a story about a Palestinian Jew named Jesus. Let me tell you a story about Muhammad. Let me tell you a story about Buddha. When she says the greatest privilege anyone can ever have is to be an American, I say, get off the crack pipe, my dear sister, in the name of love, in the name of Jesus. The greatest privilege anybody can ever have in the world is to love and be loved. I don't care if you're in Africa, Asia, Europe, I don't care if you're in Denver, I don't care if you're in Nigeria, that is the greatest privilege. And if all you can see when you see greatness is a flag, that is idolatry. And you'll never have a democracy based on that kind of idolatry, let alone dominating non-Americans. So all of a sudden, a Palestinian baby doesn't have the same value as an American baby. That's spiritually sick. That a Jewish baby in all of their preciousness has the same value as an American baby or a Palestinian baby. That is what morality is. And if all you see is flags, and all you see are those who are controlling and waving the flag, then you never have the kind of true democracy that you're calling for. So that's why what we're talking about goes straight to your question. Straight to your question, and tries to persuade you. And if we don't persuade you, we love you, and we wrestle with it together. But the crucial thing is, we involved in something bigger than me and bigger than you. And that is, we got people suffering out here. And we got to speak to that suffering and do all that we can to try to minimize it and alleviate it.
I believe in decency and order, so I just want to make sure I share this so that nobody's upset with me. We had 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We got up to 10. But I was just told by this gentleman right here that we do not have enough time. So it was not me who did not come to. I still live here. They don't. So it was not me. If the microphone did not get to you, I just want to make that very, very clear. It's on you.
Appreciate it. Put me on the chopping block. But no, I'm just playing. Love you, Quincy. But yeah, I apologize. I know there's so much energy in this room, and we really just want to keep this energy moving. We got a community panel we want you to all hear from. So we got one more question right here from my brother Hashim.
All right, Hashim Coates. One, I would love for people to say that Donald Trump is a racist. Let's bury the fascist word and just call a thing a thing. Also, I understand about shaking up the system. While I'm a Democrat through and through, I have critique. And I quote some of James Baldwin about that, some of that ideology about being a part of the party and having critique of the party, holding it accountable. My question and my concern is, understanding the true racist nature of this country is ready to pop like a pimple on a teenager's face. This will be a slim, tight election. Understanding that, this is my critique for all third-party candidates. I understand the two-party system is what it is. There's more than just two parties. There's a litany of parties on your presidential ballot. Why is it that people wait till the midnight hour to do this type of thing of saying we have to have this other option? And I agree, there should be multiple options. I don't think it should start at the federal level. The most powerful position in this country, arguably the most powerful position in the world, how come this doesn't start like from a groundswell? We always talk about grassroots and growing up. How come it doesn't start from there to have the practice to go here? If for some reason, neither candidate, no candidate gets 270, we who know political science know that it gets kicked to the House. Who is in charge of the House right now? What will their directive be? So my question is, like, it's harmful. It doesn't really fit to the political. I do political consulting and calculating. Like, it's a hard rhyme or reason for that. Also, and I'll be done with this as well. As I said, I believe in critique. I was in love with the Obama-Kamala era. I appreciate the critiques that they got, and they probably should have gotten more. But personally, Brother West, I don't understand why you all were so hard on Obama, but so soft on Trump. I did not see the rhetoric against this racist POS, this harmful man that appointed Jeff Sessions to be his attorney general, that has torn up the courts. Like, that same rhetoric, if not more, should have been applied to Donald Trump of his actions in between 2016 and 2020 and now. I'm not at a place to call him brother. I will never be at that place, and I'm okay with that.
No, I appreciate your honesty, though, brother. Let me clarify some things here. One is that I was never soft on Trump, though, brother. I called him a gangster every time I was on TV. I called him a racist, a neo-fascist, a xenophobe, because I was telling the truth. It was name calling at all. So I don't know where you get this notion of being soft on Trump. We went to jail a number of times fighting against Trump. It was just that maybe the media that you were keeping track of didn't allow that visibility. But the idea of being soft on Trump is just not true at all. Now, secondly, it's true. I critically supported Obama, as you know, right? And I had expectations. And I knew the expectations were not going to be satisfied, but I didn't know it was going to be so thoroughly dissatisfied. I really didn't. That's why we had the poverty tour, because he wouldn't mention the word poverty. And you got 140 million fellow citizens who are either poverty or on low wealth. And all they talk about is the middle class. We're seeing it again. Opportunity society for the middle class. What about the poor? What about working people? Well, they make a gesture here or there. But oh, when it comes to their big donors, oh, when it comes to the big money and benefactors in Wall Street and Silicon Valley and big tech and the Pentagon and the State Department, strong. That's the Democratic Party, not just Sister Harris, but they're very much Sister Harris. If Sister Harris had the same intensity in defending poor people, when she talks about how lethal our military ought to be in the middle of a genocide, then I said, oh, I see. That's where something deep is coming from. But no, not at all. Why? Because she's been true to herself. She is a centrist in the Democratic Party. Doesn't mean she's still my sister. Now, you and I are just different in terms of who we call brothers and sisters. So that's just a different. You are a Christian, though, brother? You gave up on your Christian faith because of Trump?
I'm agnostic.
Oh, you're agnostic. Okay, but no, that's fine. Agnostics ain't got to be calling anybody brother and sister. I'm a Christian. So we got different vantage points in that sense. That's fine. No, I hear you. Definitely. But two things I want to be clear about the lie about being soft on Trump. One. And the second thing is that when you say you're a consultant presupposes certain givens. And the given is the two-party system is here to stay for the most part. It will never be changed. And third parties can only be viewed as spoilers.
Well, that's not what I said.
No, but I mean, that's what most political consultants proceed. Is that fair? Most political consultants proceed on what is given.
My statement was an I statement, and so that was not my statement.
Right. No, I'm not just talking about you no more. I'm talking about political consultants as a whole who talk about two parties as a given. That's because I just want to make sure we're together and be fair. Because you've been fair to me, I want to be fair to you. Even if we disagree. But we do not view the two-party system as a given. At all. That's a different starting point. A very, very different starting point. And in the end, we could be wrong and we could be right. But that's where we begin. You see? And that's very, very important. Very, very important. It's like a blues man and woman. We begin with the blue notes and the minor key. The C chord is not where we start. It's a different way of conceiving of musical reality. So it is to be a blues man and a blues woman in politics. We start with Jamal and Letitia in the hood dealing with mass incarceration and decrepit school systems, and neither party talks to them every 4 years at all. Now, on the other hand, you're right. If we had a groundswell, starting with mayors, starting with city council and so forth, I resonate with what you say there, though, brother. That's a very important challenge. Very difficult thing to do.
All right, can we give applause to Melina and Dr. West?